Okay, so today we're going to take a look at something pretty new in the Web3 world. It's a project called Enchanted Folklores. And, we were just talking about how you're really interested in wrapping your head around all these new initiatives.
Absolutely.
So this one really caught our attention. It's focused on NFTs for cultural preservation. So we're going to dive into Enchanted Folklores today and really try to understand, what exactly it is they're setting out to do, why it might be important, and what kinds of possibilities it could open up.
Sounds good.
And we're doing all this, based on what they've shared publicly so far.
I think it's a great idea. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, so basically we're going to explore their vision for using blockchain technology and specifically NFTs.
Yeah.
And, just as a reminder, those are basically unique digital tokens that can represent ownership.
Right, exactly.
And so we're going to look at how they're proposing to use those in a new and interesting way.
Very cool.
Yeah, so the core idea here is actually pretty innovative. They're aiming to combine educational storytelling with cultural preservation.
Okay.
All through these NFTs on the blockchain.
Interesting.
So it's not just reading, old folktales. You could potentially own a unique digital representation of one.
That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
So it sounds like they're not just creating digital collectibles. It seems like there's this big focus on keeping cultural narratives alive.
Yeah.
Particularly ones that might be at risk of disappearing.
Exactly. And they actually highlight a few key reasons why this matters.
Okay.
So first of all, it's about protecting these potentially endangered stories.
Right.
Second, they're talking about learning through something they call immersive gamified storytelling.
I like that.
Third, supporting artists and historians all over the world.
Oh, wow.
And finally, this idea that you can actually own these NFTs and they're unique and evolving and they're connected to real cultural narratives.
That's a really cool concept.
Yeah, so it really makes you think about how we can ensure that all of this cultural heritage stays relevant and accessible, especially in our world that's becoming more digital all the time.
Exactly. And maybe these new Web3 tools offer solutions that go beyond just digital currency or art.
For sure. Okay, so they've laid out two different paths for these NFTs.
Okay, I'm interested.
So the first ones are educational NFTs. And you can think of these as beautifully illustrated digital folklore collections.
Right.
So they're designed for schools and museums and, anyone who just loves to learn.
Okay.
So that includes you.
I'm in.
Right. And these are more like curated, fixed digital books.
Interesting. So it's like a structured way to engage with cultural content, almost like a digital textbook.
Exactly.
But with the cool twist of digital ownership.
Yeah.
And that locked part probably means the core content of the story stays the same.
Exactly.
And maybe it's even verified to make sure it's accurate.
Right. Okay. So then we have these creative lore NFTs. And this is where things get really interactive.
Okay. This sounds fun.
Yeah. These are described as lore books.
Yeah.
And they actually allow users like you to contribute to the stories as they evolve.
Whoa.
And they even talk about earning rewards, unlocking rare digital items.
Wow.
And combining your NFTs to create even more legendary ones. So it's kind of like a living story that you can actually help shape.
So how do you think they're going to handle the whole authenticity thing? Because
that's a good question.
You want to preserve the original stories, but also allow people to contribute. So
it'd be really interesting to see how they manage that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
The potential for engagement is huge, though. I mean, imagine being part of how a classic tale continues to develop.
Exactly. All right, so they're getting ready to launch, and they're going to have a limited initial collection.
Okay.
And there are some perks for early supporters. So this includes something called a legendary NFT fusion system. I don't know exactly what that is, but it sounds
that's interesting.
Really cool. Maybe like combining digital trading cards to get rarer ones.
Yeah, like evolving them or something.
And they're also working on partnerships with different educational institutions. And for the first 1,000 people who get on their whitelist, there are even more benefits, like special upgrades for your NFTs.
Nice.
A founding lore keeper badge NFT, and early access to future drops and activities.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's pretty common in Web3.
Yeah.
To offer these kinds of rewards early on to build up a community of enthusiastic supporters.
For sure.
It incentivizes people to join and makes them feel like they're part of something from the beginning.
Yeah, and they're not just calling this a typical NFT project. They're calling it a movement. And their core mission is to safeguard the world's heritage and educate through new technologies and empower both collectors and communities to be part of this history.
So it's a pretty ambitious vision.
It is.
But I think it reflects a growing trend of using Web3 tools for more than just finance or digital art.
Right.
There's a real focus on social and cultural impact.
Exactly. Okay, so let's bring it all together.
Okay.
Enchanted Folklores is using Web3 technology and specifically NFTs.
Right.
So those unique digital ownership tokens to keep these cultural stories alive and share them in new and engaging ways.
Makes sense.
And they're offering both structured educational experiences and opportunities for you to actively create and own these digital stories.
So basically they're connecting cultural heritage with the digital age.
Exactly.
Offering different ways to interact with and value these stories, whether you want to learn or actively contribute.
It really is thought-provoking, right? I mean, just imagine the possibilities of blockchain technology for protecting and revitalizing our shared cultural heritage.
It's a powerful thing
in this digital world. I mean, what role could this idea of digital ownership play in how we connect with these stories that shape us?
Absolutely.
Definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
This was great.
Okay, see you next time.
Bye.